Alright man, we are back with some more Chaos 09 man. We're going to be talking about Season 2 changes that are going to be happening and just overall what to expect when Season 2 does come around in like 2 more days. So I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you do, hit the like button, subscribe channel for more CZN content. Without further ado, let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to start off with is save data, because that's going to be the big change for Season 2 alongside with other things, but I think save data is probably going to be the most important thing that everyone wants to know about. So obviously with your save data, if you're doing tier 15s, you're going to have a max save data points of 170. I believe every time you remove a card now, or remove a starting card I should say, it will be valued at 20 points. Alongside with that, if you was to remove any like monster cards or cards you get from the shopping chaos modes, I believe it will actually end up costing 0. But that's a nice change they've made. Neutral cards as well will be calculated at a fixed value regardless of whether Epiphany has been applied. When you do get a Divine Epiphany on your character, that card will be calculated as 20 points. Same as it's always been. And I also believe cards that you could buy from the shop, you know, your rallies and so on, will be also 20 points. And they've also made some changes to monster cards. Now monster cards are going to be categorized into common, rare and legendaries. And with common, they're going to be 20 points. Rare monster cards are going to be 50 points. And legendary monster cards are going to be 80 points. I believe they made this change, you know, so maybe, you know, we could use some monster cards. I will still say, you know, the rare and legendary monster cards points are really high, but we will see what we could do with it. They also changed the way how the points were awarded for card duplications. So it was 0, 10, 30. Now it is 0, 0, 40 for each card duplication. In addition to that, they have made some changes to the removal and duplications where they're going to be adding limits. So per save data, you know, you could only have a max duplication of 4. So you basically can't dupe one card more than 4 times. And the removal limit is going to be to a maximum of 5. So that's some big changes they're going to be doing to save data. They did say going on, you know, in future seasons, you know, faint memories and stuff will be, you know, changed, refined and so on. So those are just the changes for Season 2, but going forward, there might be more changes. I wouldn't be surprised in the future if they probably change the monster cards and make their points a bit more lower so people, you know, actually put them in decks and actually use them. Because I think there are some good monster cards, it's just that, you know, they take up a lot of goddamn points. So alongside with some more changes in the Chaos mode, we're going to be having a new system called like Refinement, where you're going to be getting equipment like how we usually do in our chaos runs, and with that equipment we're going to unlock this new system called Refinement, and it's basically going to allow us to choose some sort of ability, I guess, on our equipment. So whether that's just going to be stat buffs or something our character actually does, we're going to have to wait and see what those abilities are. But yeah, we're going to be able to add stuff to our equipment, so it's definitely going to be a lot more, you know, different from Season 1, and I think it's going to be pretty cool, especially when you're building characters. You've got certain equipment on them with certain abilities. I feel like it kind of does add more RNG, you know, because there might be certain equipment you want with certain abilities now, you know, but I think it's definitely still going to be fun building those characters with that system. We also have another system called God's Hammer, and I believe they also say the interior bosses of seasons are far more powerful than standard bosses. In return, defeating them will drop God's Hammer, which grants access to exceptionally powerful effects. So God's Hammer can be used on refined equipment. When used, the existing refinement effect is removed, but in exchange the equipment is randomly granted one of all possible equipment effects that appear in Chaos, including mythic grade effects. With a bit of luck, you may even obtain legendary or powerful mythic effects. So it seems like even the effects are gonna have rarities to them, because they basically just told us the rarities that are gonna be legendary and mythic. So we probably could guess there's gonna be rare and common too. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. We also got a revamp to the zero upgrade system as well. I believe there's going to be like a new skill tree in addition to that as well. So that's going to be something fun. We also have this change, which I believe everyone's gonna love and wants to know about. So they call it the meditation feature. So meditation is a new function available in save zones that is unlocked through upgrades, right? So by spending a set amount of credits, you can re-roll epiphanies on cards that already has an epiphany. So yeah, you're going to be able to re-roll epiphanies now, which I think is a big W. But obviously we're going to have to wait for the game to come out to understand a bit more of it. Like, let's say you have a divine epiphany. If you was to re-roll that divine epiphany, are you at least guaranteed to get a divine epiphany back, since it has a divine epiphany, right? And can you re-roll epiphany? Can you re-roll a re-rolled epiphany card? You know, so if I re-rolled a certain card already, can I re-roll them again in the next, you know, place where we're able to rest that in the save zone? So that's something we're gonna have to just wait and see. But I think it's definitely a big W that you can re-roll epiphanies now. Now they also talked about the select and duplicate combatant, and they also say previously, in order to control the duplication pool, players were forced to include combatants with many unique cards, right? Because unique cards couldn't get copied. So you would use, you know, certain characters with a certain character to be able to, you know, guarantee, you know, copies of them a bit more. So yeah, then they say through this upgrade, the select and duplicate 1 of 3 cards previously obtained from unidentified areas or boss defeat rewards can now be performed by designating a specific combatant. This change reduces deck building stress and allows for a smoother, more comfortable play experience with your preferred combatants. So yeah, it seems like you're going to be able to designate a specific combatant to get copies for them. And in addition, a variety of gameplay enhancing effects will be added, including increased base epiphany and divine epiphany rates, higher chances for rare unidentified areas to appear, and free training cost in save zone. Furthermore, during the mid-season phase, environmental variables that affect chaos as a whole will be introduced. Changes for the chaos: the fact that we're going to be able to reroll epiphanies, and we're going to be able to, I guess, choose a specific combatant that we want copy cards for, and we're going to be able to guarantee copy cards for them. The second thing I want to get into is Tressa and Cassius. So they've had some big changes to them. I get why they made changes, you know. Tressa and Cassius was definitely insane on Great Rift. I think if they knew those two characters were going to work that well together, they probably would have made them 5 stars and limited units. Like, honestly, I could put everything that if they knew Tressa and Cassius was going to be this broken together, they would have changed them, made them 5-star units and limited units. But them being like kind of free to play characters, Tressa literally being a free character you get, and Cassius being someone that you could definitely obtain once you've done a certain amount of summons. You know, you could kind of be unlucky and not get the Cassius, but you're definitely likely to, because of him being a lower rarity character. But they've made some changes to Tressa's Shadow Dagger. The way how Agony totally works, it is different. So this is kind of the before and afters of Tressa. So we're going to be talking about the Agony effect mechanics. So the before was applied as a new debuff to the target each time Agony is inflicted. At the end of turn, each Agony debuff deals damage and reduces its stack by 1. Now the new mechanic is going to be Agony applied by the caster is stacked as a single debuff. At the end of the turn, damage is dealt based on the number of Agony stacks. Then the stack count is reduced by half. So the number of damage count increases based on the stack count. So just from that alone, Agony's working totally different. Now there are more changes. Agony continuous effect: at the end of turn, deal fixed DOT damage equal to 50% of the amount of Agony. On effect activation, reduce Agony by 1. The newer one is going to be at turn end, deal fixed DOT equal to 50% of Agony. On effect activation, decrease Agony stacks by half. Shadow Dagger, it cost 0, it had an exhaust, the damage was 50% and it did 2 Agony. The new one is The cost and attack and the exhaust is exactly the same, but the damage is going to be higher to 80%, but the agony is going to be 1 less. Advanced Shadow Dagger, it cost 1, it was a retain retrieve, you know, it did damage of 100%, and it was, you know, 2 times 2 agony as well. The newer one is actually going to cost 0, have a retain exhaust on it, and 2 agony damage, 50%, and plus 10% damage amount for each agony on target. You know, and there's a lot more changes, but I don't want it to be, you know, too talked about, because it could get really long going into all the other stuff. But they have made a lot of changes to her kit and stuff, and she's definitely going to be totally working differently. The debuffs and stuff, they did say they were going to give this special material where you can reset a character. So let's just say you have your Tressa and Cassius to 60s, level 60, you know, maxed out potentials and everything, and you just don't like their newer builds anymore. You can use this material to reset them all the way back to level 0 and get all the materials you used on them back. So there is that, which is pretty cool, and I'm happy they actually added that while they did these debuff changes. And with Cassius, he's also had some changes as well. We could get into some before and afters. His quest mechanic changes. So when conditions are met during battle, generate a quest card as a reward quest card. It's excluded from the criteria. So that's what the before was. Now the newer version is going to be when conditions are met during battle, generate a quest card as a reward. 80% fixed healing 3 times per turn. Quest card is excluded from the criteria. And I think this is going to be the big one, the 000, right? So we all know how his 000 was like really insane, because you could just get a ton of them if you're using, you know, Serenue, a Tressa, and you was able to keep stacking the percent damage, which was just insane, right? Now the newer one is going to be 40% damage plus 40% damage for each attack card used this turn, max 4 times. So now there's going to be a limit on it. And there's also a lot of other changes to his other quest cards and his epiphanies too. And the material I was talking about earlier on is called Flash of Possibility, and I think they're going to be giving you a certain amount, I think 3 copies when season 2 does launch. There's also a lot of buffs that are going to be incoming. They've changed the way how counter attacks going to work. Nia's got some changes alongside with Rei, Ulia, Haru, Yuki, Chizuru, Kalipi, Magna, Hugo, Rin as well. I wouldn't say any of them are really nerfs. You know, I think all the other characters pretty much got some sort of buffs to them. And just a little bit of changes on what epiphanies you're going to be able to obtain and other ways you could use them. There are going to be changes to 3 partners that we know of as of now in Asteria, Westmacott, and Itsuku. So I will say all 3 of them are getting buffed for sure. Be changes to some memory fragments as well. The one called Orb of Inhibition and Instinctual Growth, Spark of Passion. They're all getting buffs, all the 4 sets. They've also changed the way how some equipment and common cards in the Chaos is gonna work too. Yeah, even like our known one, Rally. We know, you know, it has haste on it. It draws 1. It increases the action count of all enemies. The new one is still gonna cost 0. Still gonna be a skill card. It's gonna be an haste / exhaust 2, but it will still have the draw 1 and increase action account of all enemies by 3. So yeah, then add an exhaust to it, which, you know, that is the 2 exhaust. So I believe you have to use the card twice for it to fully exhaust. So Spirit Key Fox, where you was able to exhaust from the draw power, choose 1 card to draw, and you duplicate that card 1 time into hand, and that duplicate of that card stays in your hand for the entire battle. So Spirit Key Fox was kind of broken, just hard to get, but now they actually changed it from exhaust, you know, from draw power, choose 1 card to draw, and you just apply retrieve to that card. Yeah, so from what I know about retrieve, you can't like continuously retrieve it. It's usually a certain amount of times. Aside, I don't think there's really too much to go on about. Just to, you know, quickly wrap it up, 170 points for 15 tier 15, of course. Removing cards will cost 20 of your own cards though, right? Your own combatant cards, removing them will cost 20. You know, to copy them, you're gonna be able to have a max copy of 4 cards, and you could only remove a max of 5 cards. You know, we're gonna get changes to the equipment where we could get abilities on those equipments. We're gonna be able to reroll epiphanies in the save zones. We're gonna be able to designate a specific combatant to get copies for, which I think is going to be a real W, alongside with some nerfs that are going to be happening with Tressler and Cassius. We also have the God's Hammer effect that's going to be happening, you know, new areas, new monsters for season 2, of course. You know, we've got a skill tree, and you know, a zero upgrade system is going to get revamped a little bit. There's going to be some codex changes too, but I think overall is definitely going to be dope. And I hope you know this video was very informative for season 2 and what's coming. There might be some things I didn't mention, but you'll probably just see it when season 2 comes out. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Like, subscribe, run up. Catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.